Andrei Kravchenko, the mayor of Novorossiysk in Russia, reported that naval drones attacked the city during the night of September 4th through 5th. He shared the information through his Telegram channel with additional details provided by the Telegram-based Russian news outlet Astra. Kravchenko stated that an attack involving uncrewed surface vessels was actively being repelled and also issued a warning to residents living near the shoreline, urging them to stay indoors and avoid rooms with windows. The city was reportedly filled with the sound of gunfire during the incident. Novorossiysk is important because it's the place that Russia relocated the Black Sea Fleet after it became untenable for them to be based in Sevastopol. So it looks like the reach of Ukrainian drones extends that far. So good luck to Russia. Next item. Kyiv announced on Saturday that it had successfully targeted an ammunition depot in Russia's Voronezh region, which borders Ukraine. The attack was carried out via drone and caused a significant fire and a series of explosions. Alexander Gusev, the governor of Voronezh, confirmed that Russian air defense systems had neutralized the drone, but that debris from the downed drone sparked a fire, which spread to an ammunition depot, which triggered explosions. Gusev ordered an evacuation of nearby settlements as a precautionary measure and stated that no one was injured, although he didn't specify the exact facility that was affected by the impact. The SBU later claimed responsibility, stating that they'd hit a large Russian ammunition and equipment depot. And a source from the SBU said that the target was part of a broader effort to disable military infrastructure near the Ukrainian border. And they stated that the depot was a legitimate target. The Ukrainian Defense Forces have continued their offensive in the Kursk region, targeting key crossings and Russian military equipment. On September 7th, Ukrainian forces struck pontoon crossings and destroyed an OSA anti-aircraft missile system using precision-guided weapons, as shown in footage released by a Telegram channel. OSA experts confirmed that the location of the destroying crossings were near the village of Zvenoy. In addition to the strikes on the pontoon crossings, Gimlers were used to neutralize the OSA air defense system in the region. The actions disrupted Russian logistical efforts as the destruction of all three bridges over the same river has left Russian troops isolated between Ukrainian forces and the river. Fighting in the Kursk region has been intense. During the first month of combat, President Zelensky stated recently that Russian forces have suffered over 6,000 casualties, with another 10,000 losses in other areas of the front. A portion of Kursk is now, of course, under Ukrainian control, and a military commandant's office has been established to maintain public order and address civilian needs. Major General Eduard Moskalev was appointed as the office's chief, following guidelines under international humanitarian law. I got a hot mic somewhere. If someone could go ahead and mute their mic. Thank you. At least 51 people have been killed and 271 others were injured in a missile strike in Poltava in Ukraine. The attack was carried out by Russian forces and targeted key locations, including a military academy and nearby hospital. This is a really terrible strike. Poltava Military Communications Institute was established in the 1960s during the USSR period, and it trains telecommunications specialists. According to Ukraine's land forces, military personnel were the casualties of the strike. The Ministry of Defense of Ukraine noted that civilians and military personnel did not have enough time to seek shelter after the air raid alarm. Early reports by Russian military bloggers speculated that the cadets had been gathered for a military parade at the Institute, but this was later refuted by the Defense Ministry of Ukraine and also by the eyewitness accounts that I read. They basically stated, like, we were on the 6th floor, the alarm went off, and we had 2 minutes, and, we didn't get down in time. So, as far as I can tell, this parade story is not accurate. Philip Pronin, the regional governor of Poltava, reported that search teams were actively working at the scene. Additionally, 10 residential buildings sustained damage in the attack. Ukrainian President Zelensky has ordered a full and prompt investigation into the strike and confirmed that all essential services are engaged in ongoing rescue efforts. So yeah, it's a terrible strike. We really hope that Ukraine takes measures to prevent the possibility of anything like that happening in the future. Next topic is foreign aid. Previous topic was, of course, operations. The United States has announced a new $250 million defense package for Ukraine, as confirmed by the Pentagon on September 6th. The package was issued under the Presidential Drawdown Authority and includes RIM-7 missiles, air defense support, and a range of other military equipment. The U.S. is utilizing existing military stockpiles and aims to prevent any potential delays in procurement that way. The specific aims in the package include Stinger missiles, artillery rounds, TOW missiles, Javelin, and AT-4 anti-armor systems, as well as some Bradley infantry fighting vehicles, Gimlers, and M113 personnel carriers. The announcement also coincides with the meeting of the Defense Contact Group in Germany, where the Ukrainian side has been advocating for expedited delivery of air defense and long-range weapons. Also, several Ukrainian American organizations are urging the U.S. State Department to fully allocate the remaining $6.2 billion in Ukraine aid before the fiscal year ends on September 30th. These groups include Nova Ukraine, the Leleka Foundation, and Ukrainian National Women's League. They've expressed concerns that failure to use the funds might signal a decrease in U.S. support for Ukraine. Razom for Ukraine has pointed out that about $5.7 billion could remain unspent by the deadline if current trends continue, and they're calling on the president to act swiftly in utilizing the funds. As far as I understand, there are efforts by the Biden administration to extend the use of the funds, but I'm not totally sure about that. Leaders of the involved organizations argue that the aid could significantly impact Ukraine's ability to defend itself, particularly given the deadly attacks by Russia throughout the summer of 2024. We've seen some pretty severe missile attacks. On September 6th, Canada announced a new military aid package for Ukraine during the 24th Ukraine Defense Contact Group meeting at Ramstein Air Base, Germany. This package includes various forms of military assistance, including apparently 80,840 rocket engines. Not sure if that number is accurate. These were the decommissioned rocket engines that were talked about some time ago, as well as unguided 70 millimeter air-to-air missiles and 1,300 warheads. It follows an earlier delivery of 2,160 engines, which will soon be shipped to Poland. Canada is also providing Ukraine with 970 surplus C6 machine guns and 10,000 surplus 9mm pistols, as well as some decommissioned M113 armored vehicle, armored personnel carriers, and some Coyote LAVs. They are also allocating $389 million to train Ukrainian F-16 pilots through the Lead-In Fighter Training Program. Ukrainian pilots have already arrived in Canada to begin the training under the initiative. Other aid includes ACSV armored personnel carriers in a medical configuration. The first batch has already arrived in Europe, as well as additional deliveries of cargo and passenger versions to be completed by the end of 2025. Canada also recently sent 450 drones this summer, alongside $200,000 worth of IT equipment to bolster Ukraine's cyber defenses. The UK has announced the delivery of 650 lightweight multi-role missiles to strengthen Ukraine's air defense. The package is valued at 162 million British pounds and is part of the British government's ongoing commitments. The delivery is expected to begin before the end of the year and was stated by Defense Secretary John Healey during the Defense Contact Group meeting I mentioned previously. Manufactured by Thales, the LMM missiles are highly versatile and can be launched from land, sea, and air platforms. Since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, the UK has provided hundreds of LMM missiles, helping Ukraine counter Russian drones and other threats. The missiles are used by Ukraine's air defense forces on systems like the Stormer HVM and the Martlet Manpad system. That's pretty. There's a lot more technical information I could share with you, but I'll spare it. Norway has allocated approximately 48 million euros to the International Fund for Ukraine to support the acquisition of UAVs or drones. The contribution was made in partnership with the UK, the Netherlands, and Lithuania, and aims to bolster Ukraine's defense against Russian aggression, particularly in protecting civilians and vital infrastructure. Norwegian Defense Minister, Erlend's going to love this, Bjorn Arild Gram, emphasized the urgency of supplying military equipment to help Ukraine defend itself. The International Front for Ukraine is coordinated by the UK Ministry of Defense and involves several nations, including Australia, Denmark, Iceland, New Zealand, Norway, and Sweden. Norway previously supported Ukraine through the procurement of defense-related equipment, including air defense systems, demining tools, artillery ammunition, and vehicles. The Ministry of Defense of Ukraine has expressed gratitude to Spain for the rapid delivery of a full Hawk air defense battery, emphasizing that enhanced air defense capabilities are vital for saving lives. Spanish Defense Minister Margarita Robles announced that the dispatch of the equipment during the Ukraine Defense Contact Group meeting. The Hawk system was developed in the United States and is a medium-range anti-aircraft missile system. The Defense Ministry, they They basically said it was great in their memorandum at the Ukraine Defense Contact Group. Also, this is just a big chunk of stuff I'm going to call Euro aid. So Euro aid 1, Spain, some Hawk missiles. Euro aid 2, the Romanian government has approved a bill allowing the transfer of Patriot anti-aircraft missile systems to Ukraine. The bill was passed on September 2nd and now awaits final approval from Parliament. The decision follows a meeting of Romania's Supreme Council of National Defense in June, which was chaired by the president, and that council endorsed the transfer. The Romanian government spokesperson stated that the bill supplements an existing law on ground-based air defense capabilities, specifically designating a Patriot system for donation to third parties. Once the law is adopted, the government will implement the transfer. The Patriot system is another effort to support Ukraine from Romania, and yeah, I don't know, that's pretty much it. The final story for Euro aid is France, who announced plans to allocate 300 million euros from revenues generated by frozen Russian assets within the European Union to purchase weapons for Ukraine. The funding is part of broader The fund is part of a broader program which allocated 1.4 billion in revenues from Russian assets that will be used in 2024 to acquire priority military equipment. So in other words, this money was already set aside. France has now been allocated 300 million of it to produce like ammunition and other things for Ukraine. This is a coordinated move by the European Commission and the French Procurement Agency to expedite the provision of direct military aid to Ukraine. And Borrell also confirmed that the EU has already confirmed transferring funds from frozen Russian assets to assist Ukraine and support countries supplying weapons to Kyiv. Kind of in the same vein, another important step to strengthen Ukraine's air defense, the United States will be collaborating with Ukraine to design and build replacements for outdated Soviet air defense systems. The initiative, which includes participation from several European companies, was announced by U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin during the 24th Ukraine Defense Contact Group meeting in the Ramstein format on September 6th. Although Ukraine has made significant progress in producing drones, munitions, and vehicles for its ground forces, it has lagged behind in air defense production. The lack of domestic production has left Ukraine reliant on Western suppliers after depleting its own stockpile of air defense equipment. While Secretary Austin did not provide detailed information on the new systems, experts suggest that the focus is on developing a missile similar to the Soviet-era anti-aircraft models compatible with Ukraine's existing launchers, such as the S-300. This would be especially timely as Ukraine faces a severe shortage of anti-aircraft missiles for its S-300 systems, even though it still has an adequate number of launchers. The shortage arises from the discontinuation of the 5V55 missiles for the S-300, which are no longer manufactured and are unavailable on the global market. Ukraine's defense industry has already been working on modernizing the S-300 system, including repairs for existing missiles and the development of a domestic substitute for the engine. This collaborative effort with the U.S. aims to further address the gaps by producing alternatives to the increasingly hard-to-source Soviet-era components. In addition, Ukraine has been working on developing medium-range air-to-air missiles with a radar seeker to replace the R-27 missile. One notable project is the UP-277 missile, which was first introduced in 2021. The joint effort appears to prioritize the replacement of the scarce Soviet-era missiles, which will ensure that Ukraine can continue to effectively use their existing air defense systems. Ukraine has successfully reduced its state debt by $9 billion following the completion of an external debt restructuring. This was announced by the Finance Ministry on September 4th. The development stems from
two economic-related stories, and we're gonna start with Ukraine.
Well, yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about economics later. Thanks, pre-recorded Bionade. Anyway. Yeah, so this was a debt restructuring that occurred, and this happened in late July, and about 20 billion international bonds were restructured. This was one of the largest debt restructurings in recent history, according to the Ukrainian Finance Ministry, and around 60% of the net present value of the debt was discounted about 14%. This cuts debt payments by around 93%, which will result in a total savings of around 11 billion over the next 3 years. And the total debt servicing and repayment costs will have dropped by 77% by 2033, which will save Ukraine around $23 billion. So yeah, it's a big boon to the Ukrainian economy that this debt restructuring went through. Also in economic news, Unilever, a global consumer and household goods company that first entered the Russian market in 1991, has been awaiting a decision from the Russian Federation's government commission regarding its potential withdrawal from their market. The company has been operating in Russia for decades with many assets, including 4 major industrial sites and associated brands, currently valued at approximately $450 million US. This would mark a significant reduction from last year's valuation, which was nearly double that. A buyer for the assets has been secured, although the identity has not been disclosed by Russian authorities. According to according to a regulatory agency, Unilever was initially reluctant to exit the Russian market, where it once held a dominant position. However, recent escalation in geopolitical tensions increased pressure on the company, and the company's revenue in Russia made it the 4th largest corporation in the country, or the largest foreign corporation in the country by earnings, with a turnover of 62 billion rubles. I don't know what that is in USD. It's like probably 100 million or 200 million. Over the past year, this revenue has dropped by about a quarter, which accounts for about 1% of Unilever's global business. So presumably the decrease in revenue has motivated them to consider leaving. In July 2023, Unilever was added to Ukraine's list of international war sponsors by the National Agency for the Prevention of Corruption due to its continued operations in Russia. Unilever has several well-known products, including Domestos, Axe, Rexona, Dove, I think Magnum also, like the candy bar or the ice cream bar. They're widely recognized in Ukraine and also Russia. The company stated that it would comply with Russian conscription laws if its Russian employees were drafted into the military. Unilever operates globally, managing over 400 brands and producing goods at 280 manufacturing facilities across the world. I think the last item in economic news, Gazprom is delaying several major offshore exploration projects in the Arctic, according to reports from the Interfax news agency, which cited data from Russia's State Register of Geological Study. The decision comes amid record financial losses resulting from the impact of Western sanctions after the invasion of Ukraine and China's hesitation to commit to a new long-term gas contract. In the Kara Sea, where Gazprom holds 11 exploration licenses, the timeline for drilling exploratory wells has been pushed back significantly. The Arctic region is crucial for Russia's energy production, accounting for over 80% of the country's natural gas output and around 20% of its crude oil production. This is according to the International Energy Agency. Gazprom's decision to delay the projects highlights the financial and political challenges the company faces, particularly in light of the stalled Siberia 2 pipeline negotiations with China. This pipeline was intended to supply 100 billion cubic meters of gas annually to China, but has yet to receive approval from the Chinese president, despite extensive discussions over a decade. Reports suggest that China has agreed to purchase gas from the Siberia 2 pipeline. However, the prices are comparable to Russia's domestic rates, which is around $60 per 1,000 cubic meters, which makes the project economically unattractive for Gazprom. Gazprom's financial difficulties have been mounting. The company posted its first net loss in 25 years in 2023, amounting to $7 billion US, the largest in the company's history. Russian gas exports plummeted to 69 billion cubic meters, which is their lowest level since 1985. This is a result from deliveries to Europe, which were previously their main market, falling to their lowest point since the late 1970s. Although they reported a profit of 1.2 trillion rubles, or 1.02, or $11 billion in the first half of 2024, the core business remains unprofitable, with losses of around $5.4 billion US per day, according to Russian accounting standards. So yeah, Gazprom continues to nosedive. Next topic is international relations. Spain has officially joined both the IT coalition and the maritime coalition to strengthen Ukraine's defense capabilities. The Maritime Coalition was established by the UK and Norway in 2023 and focuses on providing long-term assistance to Ukraine to build their maritime capabilities, including training, equipment, infrastructure, and other things aimed at enhancing security in the Black Sea. The coalition works closely with Ukraine's Navy and Ministry of Defense and has a focus on the rapid development of naval forces. The IT coalition is led by Estonia and Luxembourg and is designed to bolster Ukraine's Ministry of Defense and Armed Forces in areas of IT, communications, and cybersecurity. Coalition members contribute funds to initiatives with a goal of providing a digital foundation for future technological solutions. Also, Sweden has joined the demining coalition and will provide financial assistance to support Ukraine's demining efforts. This was announced by the Lithuanian Minister of Defense following Sweden's signing of a memorandum of understanding. The memorandum enhances the coalition's work, which is led by Lithuania and Iceland. In addition to joining this coalition, Sweden also pledged 5 million to help clear mines, 5 million euros to help clear mines across large areas of Ukraine. The demining coalition now consists of around 30 countries, and they all provide financial and material support to Ukraine. Sweden's involvement is expected to significantly enhance the coalition's ability to deliver necessary equipment efficiently. This would include the advanced mine clearing system that Sweden produces, such as the Scanjack 3500, which is thought to be playing a key role in future efforts. Also, President Zelensky and Irish Prime Minister Simon Harris have formalized an agreement on support for Ukraine and mutual cooperation. So in other words, Ireland and Ukraine signed a bilateral security agreement. According to a statement from the president, Ireland's total contributions have amounted to about 380 million euros. And in addition, this is all like non-lethal aid, and an additional 128 million euros I think 380 million total. I don't know. It's kind of a confusing statement. Ireland will also provide mine clearance systems, explosive ordnance disposal equipment, and they'll be part of this is like a continued aspect of their participation in the demining coalition. They were already part of it. They also plan to explore new avenues of support, including involving themselves in the IT coalition in the near future. They also said they will continue training Ukrainian armed forces through the European Military Assistance Mission. I think we're getting a little bit of repetitive news about all these countries because this was the Ukraine Defense Contact Group meeting. So part of it is like all the ministers are kind of making announcements like about what they've been doing, right? So yeah, Ireland bilateral security agreement with Ukraine. That's like the new thing this week. Finally, on September 2nd, Dutch Prime Minister Dick Schoof made his first official visit to Ukraine, where he reaffirmed the Netherlands' ongoing commitment to supporting the country. During his visit, he said Netherlands will do everything they can, and he announced a significant new support package from the Netherlands valued at 200 million euros. The package will focus primarily on Ukraine's energy infrastructure and also humanitarian aid. He also went to Zaporizhia and met with the president of Ukraine. And he visited a school in the morning and participated in a gathering marking the start of the academic school year and reflected on the difficult conditions faced by students and teachers who lived under the threat of bombings and strikes. He also met with veterans to discuss their experiences in the war and the significance of mental health support for those affected. Ukraine has expressed concern over reports that the International Monetary Fund may resume cooperation with Russia, including sending a mission to Moscow. In the statement, the foreign ministry labeled the potential cooperation as, quote, absurd, arguing that it would effectively legitimize the Russian regime. Ukraine pointed out that Russia's actions, including launching the largest aggressive war in Europe since World War II and committing numerous atrocities and crimes against humanity, are in direct violation of the United Nations Charter. Given the circumstances, Ukraine urged the IMF to refrain from re-engaging with Russia and to remain committed to the purposes and principles of the UN Charter. The ministry called on key stakeholders and leadership to continue isolating Russia, emphasizing that dialogue should not be resumed while Russia continues its aggression, resulting in the deaths of civilians, including children, and undermining international norms. The reaction came after reports that were leaked by Reuters, or reports from Reuters off the record, indicated that the IMF planned to send a mission to Russia to discuss the country's economic prospects and policies. Presumably, they're trying to talk them out of their insane state capitalism. I don't know. So this is the last topic, sort of other news. This is something that made a big impact, I think, on kind of the information space this week. A new documentary called Russians at War, which focuses on the lives of Russian soldiers near the Ukrainian front lines, has been met with significant criticism for allegedly attempting to downplay Moscow's war crimes. This is directed by Russian-Canadian filmmaker Anastasia Trifimova, and the film follows 7 months embedded with the Russian Army battalion in eastern Ukraine. It presents a perspective on the daily lives of the soldiers, portraying their motivations for joining the war, which range from financial incentives to other motivations. In the documentary, the soldiers are depicted as grappling with the purpose of their involvement in the conflict. However, the film only provides a brief glimpse of actual combat, and critics argue that it fails to address widespread destruction and atrocities committed by Russian forces in Ukraine since the invasion. When asked about Russia's actions at a press conference, Trimofova defended her work and stated that the soldiers were, quote, ordinary guys, and that she witnessed no war crimes during her time near the front. She acknowledged the numerous reports of war crimes, but insisted her film represented, quote, a different story. Of course, the Ukrainian community, particularly those at the festival who were premiering their own films, had immediate backlash to these comments and to the film. A producer who saw the film at the festival portrayed, has her own documentary called The Songs of Slow Burning Earth, criticized the decision to show Russians at war. It's a very good statement that she made. I wish I had time to read it. Unfortunately, we don't. But basically, she just sort of explained how the documentary dangerously distorts the portrayal of Russian soldiers. They argue that the film frames them as victims rather than active participants in the invasion, and question whether the soldiers' crimes are less significant simply because they claim ignorance of the war's purpose, stressing the responsibilities that these individuals bear for their actions. I also just want to mention this woman has made 11 documentaries that were made directly, like as an RT employee. Like she's a direct propagandist for RT. This documentary that she made, Russians at War, was given 340,000, I believe, Canadian dollars by the Canada Media Fund to be produced. So, very, very upsetting, and that this managed to weasel its way into legitimate Western art circles. I'll put it that way, in documentary circles. Also, in addition to this, also in the information space, according to an indictment by the United States Department of Justice, a U.S.-based media company linked to 6 conservative influencers, it wasn't named in the allegation, but this is obviously tenant media based on the substance of it, was covertly financed by employees of Russian state media. The company produced English language videos that allegedly aligned with the Kremlin's goal of exacerbating internal U.S. divisions to weaken oppositions. Among the influencers cited, again, I don't think these people are named in the indictment, but it's pretty obvious that it's them: Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, and Benny Johnson. The U.S. Justice Department did not directly target any of the influencers themselves, stating that they were or at least some of them were misled about the company's financial backing. Instead, 2 RT employees were given the charges of conspiracy to commit money laundering and violating the Foreign Agents Registration Act for funneling around $10 million to the Tennessee-based company. Though the company is not named in the indictment, I already mentioned that, it's Tenant Media. And the indictment follows the new U.S. sanctions against RT, Margarita Simonyan, and other Russian propagandists who the U.S. sanctioned for interfering with U.S. elections. And what I believe is the last item this week, it's a huge story. President Zelensky has initiated a significant government reshuffle, marking the largest change to Ukraine's cabinet since the Russian invasion began. The reshuffling includes the replacement of key ministers in crucial positions, and Zelensky stated that it was to, quote, bring new energy into the government. The changes target essential areas such as foreign policy, strategic industries, justice, agriculture, and defense. One of the most significant shifts was the replacement of Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba with Andrei Sybiha, who is a longtime diplomat and former deputy to Andrei Yermak, the head of the president's office. Kuleba has played a central role in securing military aid and coordinating international diplomacy during his tenure. Reportedly, he sought to step down due to the exhausting demands of his position. Another key figure affected by the reshuffle is Alexander Kamyshin, the former Minister of Strategic Industries, who was moved to the president's office to continue focusing on weapons and infrastructure issues. Kamyshin, who was known for keeping Ukraine's railways operational throughout the war, had been integral to boosting Ukraine's domestic defense industry. His successor, Herman Smetanin, previously led the state's defense conglomerate Ukroboronprom and is expected to maintain focus on bolstering defense production, particularly drones and missiles. The continuity in defense policy suggests a sustained push for self-sufficiency in military hardware. In the Justice Ministry, Denis Malyushka, who served since 2019, was replaced by Olha Stefanishyna, who's the current Deputy Prime Minister responsible for European integration. This appointment underscores the emphasis on aligning Ukraine's legal reforms with European Union standards. Her dual role as Justice Minister and Deputy Prime Minister for Integration suggests a strategic prioritization of Ukraine's EU accession, which has gained momentum since the war began. Also, just briefly mention that the parliament gave the previous Justice Minister a standing ovation. So I think that speaks to what kind of job he did. The Ministry of Agrarian Policy and Food also saw a leadership change with Vitaly Koval replacing acting minister Taras Vysotsky. The appointment comes at a crucial time as Ukraine's agricultural sector faces significant challenges from Russian attacks. This is like a long time coming. Like there's been so much discussion about replacing the agriculture minister. It's been a temporary person for a long time. And the former head of the State Property Fund, Koval, is expected to focus on rebuilding agricultural production and addressing ongoing disruptions to exports. Finally, Natalia Kalnikova was appointed as the Minister of Veterans Affairs. You know, that's so weird. That name's oddly familiar for some reason. Erlend, is there a reason why that name might be familiar?
Well, a year ago, I think, and a couple of weeks ago, we had Natalia on when we were doing Tochnyi Spaces. William brought Natalia on because he is connected with he's one of the, how do you say it, like the people who started the Ukrainian American Veterans Bridge, and she used to be the responsible person on the Ukrainian side. So yeah, we had an hour-long interview, I think, with her, and shortly after she became Deputy Minister of Defense, I think. So we tried to get her on again, but apparently she is very busy.
Yep. Like complete goofballs, we didn't put that as the title of the thing, but I have the link. I'll throw it up in the chat in a minute. But yeah, so if anyone wants to hear what the new Minister for Veterans Affairs is like, we interviewed her on Tochnyi. So yeah, maybe check that out. It's an old broadcast, but probably a good one. Okay, so I think that wraps up my news presentation for this week. So I'll go ahead and turn it over now to German Aid to Ukraine for his report. Go ahead.